EAGLES, Eagles.
Wow, that game happened, Gunner. That was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun in the second preseason game. Only about 75 Eagles got hurt today, so that's fun. That's exciting. Oh, 11 penalties. That's fun. That's exciting. Marcus Mariota's not the backup quarterback anymore, as far as I'm concerned. That's fun. That's exciting. So much to get to today. I know they were making jokes about it during the broadcast today, Gunner, but good Lord. I know they were saying it was like a baseball score. It was like it was 3-2 right after the third period. Like, that's the way it was playing out tonight, unfortunately.
It was 8-5 at one point. All of the accolades we were extending certain players' way last week. After this game, not so much.
Oof.
That's why you play the preseason games, man, to get a lot of these things on film, to work things out, especially players. See, you already know a certain percentage of players, and I'm talking about young players, not veterans, that are going to make this team. So you really, as a coaching staff, you're really going to hone in on some of the things they did and, more importantly, did not do, and really, pound those things home between now and the final preseason game next week. And rightfully so. I mean, this is where you make the mistakes. When I'm watching a game like this, Mark, I'm not looking as much at scoring plays. I'm looking at technique. I'm looking at hand placement. I'm looking if people are in the right position. I'm looking if they're wrapping up on tackles or if they're throwing shoulders and things of that nature. And in this particular game, I was looking more at bodies laying on the field more so than anything else. I mean, that was scary, man. And hopefully, Cleveland and Ojomo with the neck injuries, they're okay. Their movement and their extremities so far, but still, until you get further testing with the MRIs and stuff, you don't know exactly what's going on. Zach McPherson, during the game, I reported that not only was it an ankle injury, but they're also checking his Achilles. So they've had enough of that stuff already as well with Sean Bradley. So now we sit, wait, and cross our fingers. Nolan Smith with the shoulder injury seems to be fine, but he's had a history of injuries. He had the elbow one year, he had the torn pec last year, and the way he was holding that arm down, I mean, hopefully it's nothing more than a stinger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And Tyree Cleveland, Ojomo, Moro Ojomo, Nolan Smith, Josh Andrews, Zach McPherson, Olamide, Zacchaeus, all ended up with injuries tonight, unfortunately. Hopefully none of them are serious. You mentioned Cleveland, you mentioned Ojomo. Both had some movement in their extremities. They had movement in their extremities, so that's obviously a good thing. But all you ask for in the preseason is escape healthy. That's it. Escape healthy. And this was obviously a game where that was not the case for a lot of these players. And I take full responsibility for Nolan Smith, because I think I just tweeted out that I was at a Sam Bradford versus Green Bay level of preseason excitement for Nolan Smith and Sidney Brown, and promptly Nolan Smith gets hurt on the very next play. So it looks like he'll be fine, but I take full responsibility for that scare. So I do apologize. Let's start it off with some guys that you and I had talked about today, because, by the way, welcome in, everybody, to the Lehocky Postgame Show here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. That man right there is Derek Gunn. My name is Marc Farzetta. We appreciate everyone here in the chat. Coming up in the next segment, we'll be talking in about 20 minutes to our friend Mike Missanelli. He'll give us his takes on preseason game number 2 against the Cleveland Browns, the 18-18 final with this preseason game against the Browns. And then John McMullen will join us from Lincoln Financial Field to break it all down and what's being said after the game from Nick Sirianni. Did not look too pleased with that penalty on the field goal to give him another opportunity to try to take a lead. It was good to see that passion, albeit in the preseason, from Nick Sirianni, that patented Nick Sirianni passion there on the sideline. So we'll get to that conversation. But yeah, Mike Missanelli will join us coming up in about 20 minutes, and John McMullen will join us a little bit later in the show. We'll give you about 90 minutes of reaction to this game. We'll read some comments from you guys and try to keep everything in perspective. Now, Gunner, you and I had the pleasure of filling in for your partner, Rob Ellis, today on Sports Take. We had mentioned a couple of names that we're going to be looking at tonight: Tyler Steen, Nakobe Dean, the running back situation, Sidney Brown, Tyree Cleveland. Let's start it off with Nakobe Dean. Nakobe Dean, after drawing a penalty, and I will say this, okay, and some people might, I already get criticized enough for being like the president of the Nakobe Dean fan club, but I'll say this. A linebacker trying to hold up at the very last second with a quarterback going into a slide, it's a very difficult play to try to hold up and not hit. Did he make the wrong play? He made the wrong play. Is it a very tough play to make? It's a tough play.
No, and it's a point I've been arguing for years since they revamped the shots to the head. You know, when you're a defender and you're running full bore, and let's face it, Robinson slid at the last minute. You know, normally a quarterback will slide a lot sooner when he sees would-be tacklers converging, but he kept going to pick up an extra few yards. And by this time, Nakobe Dean is going full bore, and he's already committed himself to take the shot. So Robinson slides right into him. They call it, you know, unnecessary roughness. Now, we've seen this happen time and time again in regular season games in big situations. It has won some games for some teams. It has lost games for other teams. They've got to find a way to redefine what that is. And I know they're committed to trying to make the games a little bit shorter, more so than longer. But the bottom line is to play right. And if that means you have to call another timeout as a referee crew and look at the play over and over again before you come to a conclusion, you know, then do so, because those plays are commonplace across the National Football League. And, you know, I understand they're trying to protect the offensive players more so than ever before in recent years, but you're leaving defensive players open to be injured more, because if you're asking a guy who's going full bore, who's made a commitment to take a hit, to adjust his body on the fly, now you're talking about the possibility of ankles, knee injuries, and possible shoulder and head injuries, you know, and possibility of running into one of their own teammates. So they've got to keep fine-tuning this thing, but it seems like they've come to a conclusion what is and what isn't, and they're going to go with that, and it's not right, you know. And I'm not defending the Eagles. I'm defending defensive players in general, is that they're at a severe disadvantage when it comes to what the strike zone is supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. And I'm with you 100%. I mean, it was one of the first things. I remember you and I talking years ago before the NFL expanded to 17 games. I remember talking about how this was their goal, and the whole reason they're trying to make the game safer is so that they can make the appeal to the players union and say, well, look, we made the game safer so you can totally play one more game in the regular season. No big deal. And sure enough, here we are now. However, in trying to make the game safer, what really makes sense? I understand the goal to make the game safer, but I don't understand how it makes sense when a guy like Nakobe Dean is trying to make a play on a quarterback, granted a quarterback who's going into a slide, but as you say, full bore, 1,000% just trying to make a play. And it's very difficult at literally the last possible millisecond to make an adjustment to avoid making illegal contact, or in this case, illegal roughness, illegal hit to the head there that it was called for Nakobe Dean in that play. Now, to get that rule out of the way, he got called for the penalty. We acknowledged it. The very next play, or excuse me, in that goal line situation, Nakobe Dean comes up with a huge play, makes first and foremost a great read in the backfield to know what was coming next. He charges the line of scrimmage. He gets a hand in on the ball carrier, jars the ball loose, and then the Eagles are able to get on top of it, and they force that fumble in that situation. That's what you want to – look, when we talk about Nakobe Dean, we talk about smarts, we talk about instincts, and we talk about quickness. We saw all three of those things. And Gunnar, before the game today, when we were doing Sports Take, we mentioned those same three things, and on that very play, we saw all three of those things carry out for Nakobe Dean. He stepped up and he made a play.
Yeah, he read the play perfectly. He shot the gap and forced the fumble. You know, after making a mistake, which is questionable, he came back the very next play and stopped the drive. An opening drive that had a lot of miscues by the defense, by the way. You know, they let Cleveland just walk down the field. And I tell you what, this kid, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, I love this kid. I loved him at UCLA. And I tell you, he's got ice water in his veins, man. He's got a great arm, great accuracy. I loved everything about him, and he just walked down the field on this team. This team, you know, coverage a little bit off tonight, tackling a little bit off in situations tonight. But those are the ebbs and flows of what you're going to get in a season, whether it's preseason or regular season. You know, offensively, they made some mistakes as well, made some big plays. and there's still a lot to work on, and there's still a lot of room for backups to assert themselves in terms of whether they're going to be number 2s and number 3s. Some we already know, but there's room for a number of players to step up. And I didn't think a number of those players stepped up tonight.
Yeah, there's a long list of names that we'll be looking at as the night goes on. Nakobe Dean was one of the guys that you and I were looking at first and foremost to see how he would play, how he would go out there and handle the business when he goes out there. And I thought he played well in the time that we got to see him out there. I thought you saw the instincts there. You saw the smarts and you saw him make a play. I said, I just want to see him make a play. He made a play. I'll dine on that until week 1 of the regular season because I think you're on the same page as me here, Gunner. We're not going to see Nakobe Dean play again the rest of this preseason, right?
Yeah, well, as I said on Sports Take when I found out, he's probably going to play 10 snaps or less. He played a little bit more because of that first drive. And then after that, you call it a night. And thank goodness, when you consider how these guys were dropping like flies after that, thank goodness you got them off the field. Last thing is you want to see is to have your starting middle linebacker have a fluke injury on the field like some of these injuries were tonight, man. And now we're sitting here waiting to find out further reports in terms of how severe some of these injuries are. But I like Nakobe's quickness. I liked his anticipation. I made a couple of minor mistakes in terms of positioning and tackling, but he made the one big play. Came right back after a gaff and made a big play. And that tells me, if you're going, it's like I said on Sports Take, if you're going to make mistakes, make a mistake going all out. The coach would rather see you going all out than being tentative in situations like that.
Gunner, absolutely. I want to do some rankings real quick, and it just has to do with quarterback. It just has, let's talk about quarterbacks who threw a football tonight for the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm going to rank them. Okay. Number 1, Tanner McKee. All right. Best guy to throw a football tonight for the Eagles.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Next up, I'm going to go Jalen Hurts, who caught an errant throw on the sideline and threw it into the crowd. That was, I think, the second best quarterback to throw a pass tonight. Would you agree?
Probably, yes.
Okay, now, okay. You know what? I'm not even going to say a pile of crap. I'm just going to say number 3, Marcus Mariota. He was the 3rd best Eagles quarterback to throw a ball tonight. There's a serious issue here with the backup quarterback role here.
You really want to take it down to the gutter, don't you?
Hey, I left out pile of crap. I could have said pile of crap and then Marcus Mariota, but I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I said I ranked him just under Jalen Hurts. But there's an issue here, my friend.
Yeah, I understand that he's playing behind backups, and some of the times he didn't get a chance to step into his throws, but he sailed. There are other times he had plenty of time to plant his feet and throw the ball, and he continues to sail them. He's been doing it in practice. He did it last week in the opening game against the Ravens. His passes continue to sail, and he sailed one which led to a pick. And I don't know what it is with him, but I think after 2 games, and again, it's preseason, you're playing against more backups, but I don't have a problem if the Eagles announce that McKee has moved up to the number 2 spot. He came right out, first drive, right out of the gate, 6-play drive, 3 minutes, 75 yards, marched him down the field, touchdown. First pass was a beautiful out route, right on the money, and, he's been doing it throughout training camp and now for the second preseason game. I don't know what it is about Mariota, what's in his head, but for some reason, he can't get his passes down on a consistent basis. And you're not going to last long. You're not going to last long if you continue to do that. I mean, Mariota's been around the league long enough. He should know better, And for whatever reason, the Marcus Mariota that started out early in his NFL career is not even close to the guy we've watched over the last couple of years in Atlanta and now here. Now, again, he's playing behind passed up lines. I get that. But he had time to set his feet in the pocket and throw the ball, look down the field, throw the ball, and had some guys wide open and overthrew him. And Nick Sirianni and Brian Johnson, they got to be cringy when they look at this film tomorrow.
The word sail definitely comes to mind a lot with his throws tonight because he was certainly sailing a few of them. And to compare the 2 quarterbacks, I think one of the things that we could really point out about this is that Marcus Mariota was a problem for his receivers tonight with errant throws. When you just look at the numbers for Mariota tonight, he was 9 for 17 for 86 yards, and he threw that interception. He was sacked 3 times. For Tanner McKee tonight, his receivers were the problem for him. There were at least 3 drops, 1 for a touchdown. He put the ball on the money for Deon Cain down the sideline. He put the ball on the money for Tyree Cleveland, a guy we were looking forward to see tonight on the play. Unfortunately, Cleveland ended up getting hurt, and he couldn't make the adjustment to make the catch, but the ball was right there for him. If those catches are reeled in, if those 2 of them are routine, then it's a much different stat line for McKee, who still had a good stat line tonight, 10 of 18 for 147 and a touchdown, averaging 8.2 yards per attempt. So that is pretty damn good there for Tanner McKee. I was surprised guys like Deon Cain were unable to reel the ball in. That one play by Tyree Cleveland was a difficult one to bring in, but one he definitely should have had. I thought McKee just, you know what he looks? He looks poised. He looks cool, calm, collected, as you want a quarterback to look, albeit, yes, preseason, but still, this is a 6th-round pick that the Eagles are given an opportunity to, and he has looked like, in the preseason, through 2 games now, the far and away better quarterback. And he's not playing with that talent that, like, for instance, he didn't have DeAndre Swift. He had Kenny Gainwell get a couple of reps tonight, and unfortunately, they had the safety there. The offensive line wasn't playing well. And that was really it. He's not playing with near the talent that Marcus Mariota has been out there with to be the starter during these 2 preseason games.
Well, McKee's a taller quarterback too, can see the field a little bit better. I love his arm accuracy. I love his arm motion. His mechanics are really great for a young quarterback. My last count on my notes, they had 6 drops, 6 McKee drop passes. Okay. And who knows, who knows how long they could have sustained those drives had they not dropped those passes. The only thing, McKee is not a runner. You saw him with the run. He's not a runner.
I thought that one was a forward pass. I thought that one he was going to get called for the forward pass. I thought he was over the line of scrimmage.
He's more of a plotter than a runner, but that's okay. You want to be able to. You want him to be able to deliver the goods, and he did that. He put the ball where it had more times than not. He had the one bad throw, I believe, off an RPO. Had a receiver wide open in the back of the end zone, overthrew him a little bit. Receiver, I think, got his hands on the ball, should have brought it down. But outside of that, every pass is not going to be perfect. But for the most part, McKee put that ball exactly where it's supposed to be, and the receivers dropped way too many for the coach's liking. But I like everything about Tyler McKee. And I said after he completed his first pass, I put it out on X or Twitter, whatever the heck it's called.
The platform formerly known as Twitter, yes.
Yeah, I said, okay, first pass completion. All right, he's number 2. He's number 2 on my depth chart. And people jumped on that real quick.
Yeah, Gunnar, I felt bad for the guy with the goal line situation. Deon Cain drops the ball in the back of the end zone. He's rolling to his right. He's buying time. He's creating that time, not down the field, whatever, in the end zone. And Cain makes a great play, comes all the way across the field to be there for his quarterback. Ball's a little over his head, but certainly a catchable ball, and dropped. Tanner McKee made a great play on that one, rolled to his right. Made a couple of great throws. He hit, who was it down the sideline? Was it King going down the sideline? No, it was Tyree Jackson, your boy Tyree Jackson making a play down the sideline. Yeah. Then after that, it was Brady Russell, who made a play on special teams as well. That long-haired fella. Yeah.
He then got on a nice pass down the sidelines also.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Him and Ngata were in simpatico in this game. They were on the same page.
He has such a great touch on his passes, man. And obviously he learned his lesson well in the college ranks. It's amazing that he lasted on the board. And again, it's preseason. I get it. But it's amazing just looking at his overall mechanics and ability. It's amazing he lasted as long as he did on the board, when he came out of college for the draft. But you know what? Every team misses a player, and obviously the Eagles, didn't think he was they didn't deem him worthy enough to take him early in the round. I'm sure they just sat there and said, hopefully he keeps dropping. Hopefully he keeps dropping, And sure enough, he dropped right to where they wanted to pick him. And you know what? They may have themselves a diamond in the rough here.
All right, real quick. I'm only asking because I saw it start to circulate on social media. Nick Foles is a free agent. Does Nick Foles need to be in Philadelphia?
I think Nick Foles' better days have come and gone. I know people have this affection for Nick Foles, and so do I. I love him.
Yeah.
He's a friend of mine, but I don't think we want to go down the Nick Foles role again. if that's the case, bring in Matt Ryan. You're going to do that. Bring
Matt.
You're not going to sit Matt Ryan on a bench. I would bring in Matt Ryan before I bring in Nick Foles, but I don't think Matt Ryan's coming here. If Matt Ryan comes back to play and he's left that door open that he wants to play, he's going to go to a situation where he has a chance to walk in the door and play now because somebody's injured or not doing a job.
I don't know, man. Nick Foles drinks that Schuylkill River fresh. You know what I'm saying? All of a sudden, he becomes, the next Tom Brady, or better than Tom Brady, as a matter of fact. It's just something in the water here in Philadelphia that makes Nick Foles ascend to a higher level. But I don't think the Eagles will be needing that because Jalen Hurts is a perennial MVP candidate. Hey,
see, Griffin Renzi is asking me any updates on injury. Well, Griffin, a few moments ago, I mentioned that when it comes to Ajomo and Cleveland, it's still wait and see. They still have to conduct MRIs. Andrews is an ankle. The one you have to watch the closest is McPherson. The team announced it was an ankle injury, but I was also told they're checking his Achilles as well. So say your prayers and keep your fingers crossed that it's not an Achilles. We don't need another one of those, So because I think McPherson is a very good backup for this team, and I hate to see him go down. I really would.
I'm with you. Hey, coming up in a minute, we're going to continue to break down this preseason game number 2 against the Cleveland Browns. And joining us in the upcoming segment here, the great Mike Missanelli will stop by the Pond Lehocky Postgame Show right here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction. Go with trust.
Go Birds!
And go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pond Lehocky, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back to the Pond Lehocky Postgame Show here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. Our friend Mike Missanelli joins us right now. Eagles postgame right here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel throughout the season. Mike, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Hey, guys, the football season already?
I haven't seen Mike since our Super Bowl show. That was back in February, man.
No, it's been a long time. It's good to see you guys again. This was really an exercise in patience watching this game tonight, man. This was drawn out pretty long night. It was like watching a 3-hour movie.
An exercise of futility.
Yeah, but in a game like this, you look. I mean, at least I was looking at the guys that obviously aren't starters, or some are starters, but guys are going to at least make a contribution. So from that standpoint, I thought obviously Nolan Smith made a contribution. Rashad Penny had a couple of good runs. These guys are going to be part of the mix. At the linebacker, Nakobe Dean, obviously after making a bonehead play, punched the ball loose. And Christian Ellis, I thought, played well in the linebacker spot.
Yep.
So aside from the injuries, you look at those kind of guys that are going to be part of the whole mix this year.
Mike, I'm curious to get your take on it. He didn't have as flashy as a game tonight, but where are you on Sidney Brown as far as maybe working his way into being a starting safety?
Yeah, I think he's a good player. I like the way he plays. I like the attitude. Now, a guy like that is prone to get burned. He's so aggressive that NFL offensive coordinators might take advantage of that, and he's young, so he's going to make those kind of mistakes. But he's got fire. I like a guy like that. I mean, we all love Brian Dawkins here. He's got that kind of mentality. So yeah, he jumps off the page right away.
When I look at Sidney Brown, and I've said this before on shows, he reminds me a lot of Bob Sanders, who played for the Colts. Bob Sanders was a smaller safety, but man, Bob Sanders packed a wallop. The only problem with Sanders was he hit so hard he would hurt himself more times than not than he would hurt the opposition. And I hope Sidney Brown is not like Sidney plays with such reckless abandon, and he packs a wallop. He came up and made a hit tonight. There was a really good hit. That was the only play I can remember where he really stood out on a play tonight. And I'm thinking every time he hits me, I'm hoping, get up, man. Please get up. Please get up.
Yeah, I guess these guys are a little more physical and a little more physically fit than the guys he's used to popping in college.
Yeah,
but he looks pretty stout himself. I mean, he looks like he can make a hit and take some punishment. Yeah, I like it. He was a good selection for them. That was a pretty savvy pick.
You're the first person. Christian Ellis was definitely someone we were watching. Is definitely on our list tonight. I mean, there was one series where it was the Christian Ellis show. I mean, he was shedding blocks. He was making tackles. He broke up a pass. In 3 straight plays, he did all those things. But he is really, talking about guys that jump off the page. This guy's jumping off the field so far.
Yeah, when he broke up that pass, it was he stayed with that receiver and then read the play, which was, to me, very important, that he showed a little savvy in reading that kind of play. Listen, this team is good. We all know they're good. So these preseason games are kind of painful to talk about and what you're looking for. And I know here's going to be the reaction that Tanner McKee should be the second string. And that's just not going to happen. They're not going to trust a rookie to be their backup. Now, Mariota has not looked good. So I wonder if they're thinking in the front office and in the meetings tomorrow that they would have to upgrade with another veteran quarterback. I heard you guys mention Foles and Ryan. I don't think that's the way to go. But there's probably a veteran backup that they can acquire if they just don't like what they see with Mariota, and he hasn't really impressed that the first couple of games. So it'll be interesting to see what they do this week.
All right, let's take a look at the free agent quarterbacks out there. Let's see what we have here. You want Carson Wentz back?
No.
You want 38-year-old Joe Flacco?
No, I don't want that.
Do you want 36-year-old Chase Daniel?
No.
Do you want?
I'm talking about a guy, like a Kellen Mond type of guy. Like I thought he played well tonight. That guy. So a guy with like a few years of experience, not an older guy, but a guy with a few years of experience more than Tanner McKee. Maybe is where they have to go. And there are some quarterbacks out there on everybody's roster. I mean, everybody's carrying 4 quarterbacks, right? There's got to be a guy that they look at and say, okay, he's got a shot. But maybe they'll stick with Mariota. I don't know. They made a commitment to him. They're paying him a lot of money to be that backup. So and he fits. If they run read options, he's the guy that I'm more comfortable with than a big guy like Tanner McKee. So
right,
see what their thinking is.
The only problem is the way he's been throwing the ball. You better hope Mariota tucks and runs more so than throwing the ball up, because for whatever reason, he can't even get the ball down, man. Every time he releases the ball, it's sailing upward instead of coming down.
Yeah, he made a horrible throw to the sidelines.
I know.
And then he over the middle was horrible to Calcaterra. He was wide open on that play.
Goodness.
You can't have that's going to get picked off every single time. So I don't know what's up with him. Maybe he just doesn't like football anymore. Maybe his run in football was just a short period of time.
It's interesting you say that, Mike, because I thought it was very revealing in that show Quarterbacks on Netflix. And once he was deleted from a starting quarterback position down in Atlanta, he faded out of the show, and all of a sudden he was mysteriously disappeared from the team. And the scuttlebutt down in Atlanta was, is he really injured? Or, they were saying he was having some injury checked out. Is he really injured? Or people were like on the fence, like, that's Bush League if he just walked away from the team. So there was a lot of speculation about it. And I wonder if that still has a lingering effect on him coming here to Philadelphia.
Possible. It's possible he's lost his passion. His passion was at a height playing a system in college. And so the NFL really, he hasn't had a lot of success where he can develop, well, I really enjoy this game and I'm good at it. He looks like a sheepish kind of guy. And, you got to have, I don't know, you got to have some brass ones to play in this league. I think it would have helped him tonight had he run the ball a couple times and maybe, got some confidence that way and got out of the pocket and do what he does to get a first down or something. But he never really attempted to do that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Away from the quarterback spot for a second, looking at the running backs, Kenny Gainwell barely had carries tonight, but he had carries. He was obviously tackled for a loss for a safety there, a breakdown in the offensive line. Just overall, not just in the preseason, but when the season actually starts, how do you see them deploying their running backs?
I like the running backs. I thought I didn't think Gainwell showed enough gumption to get out of that end zone on that play. That was a weird carry by him. But they seem to have all the bases covered with those four guys. Now, Trey Sermon, I put out a tweet saying we won't see him anymore after that fumble, and then he missed a block, but then he came back and scored a touchdown. So I don't know, they're probably not going to carry 5, but I like the mix they have. I love DeAndre Swift and what he's going to be able to do. If Penny can do those type of things that he did tonight, that serves another need, and then you got Gainwell can flash a little bit, and Boston Scott is steady. So I'm okay with that whole with the contingent.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
still trying to figure out.
You're not?
Yeah.
You're shaking your head. You're not.
People keep saying, who's the lead back? Who's the lead back? I don't think there is a so-called lead back in this offense. And that's a credit to the depth that this team has. I think it's going to be game and series situations. When they start to critique who they're playing, is this team susceptible to a running back who can run numerous wheel routes? Do they have an outside backer that can stay with backs in a wheel route? Are they susceptible more to being pounded on the inside, between the tackles? That's a Penny type game. That's also a Gainwell type game. If you're looking for, are they a little slow in lateral pursuit? Well, that's a Swift game. That's a Boston Scott game. And Trey Sermon fits in there. They're not keeping 5 running backs on an active roster. They kept Sermon last year, but they're not keeping 5 on the roster this year. They like their offensive linemen. I expect them to keep at least 10 offensive linemen on the roster this year, as they did last year. They like to have their abundance of D linemen for their rotation. One position is going to have to suffer. And the running back, when I say suffer, is not suffering. When you can go 4 deep, how many teams can go 4 deep in the NFL in terms of running backs? Not many.
I agree. And I think the game has changed a little bit where you don't really need the main guy. I mean, you got to keep those guys fresh anyway. So I like the way that they've approached this running back situation. I have absolutely no problem. And getting DeAndre Swift is such a big get for me, and because of the things that he can do. I mean, he can bust you and take it to the house for 50, but he's so good at coming out of the backfield catching passes. I think he's just perfect for them.
Mm-hmm. No, and I agree with you on Gainwell, by the way. I know the offensive line didn't look great on that safety, but it just looked like he kind of surrendered that play.
Yeah, the last thing you could do is get tackling end zone. I mean, at the very least, you got to be a missile and burrow forward just to get past that goal line and not get a safety. I thought it was a strange carry by him.
Mm-hmm. No, it certainly was. It was a rough one. We talked about the safeties. We talked about Christian Ellis. Is there anyone else under the radar that has kind of stood out to you so far through the preseason?
Not really. Kelly Ringo is an interesting guy, and like he had such a horrible play to allow that reception where he had his back turned, but he's so intriguing as a player that they have to keep him. He's on that border where they have a lot of guys they have to keep back there, but I can't imagine they're going to cut him. I think they're going to keep him and try to develop him. He's a very interesting player.
Well, the thing about him was on that particular play, he was in position, but it was like he gave up on the play. He didn't see the ball. He didn't follow the ball. And I don't know if he lost it in the lights or what, but he didn't follow the ball. And the quarterback, Robinson, dropped it right in between him. And I can't remember who the safety was over the top coming over. And a receiver made the catch. And all of a sudden he looks up, oh, he made the catch, But those are the things that young players making that transition from the college ranks to the pros are going to go through. As part of the growing pains, he'll learn from that. I guarantee you the coaching staff will point those things out in the next film session with him. Yeah, because it wasn't bad coverage. You just had a fraction of a second where he lost containment.
Yeah, it was Brown that came over. It was Brown that came over late on that play. But you're absolutely right. That's the first thing I thought about. This is the NFL, son. You may be able to get away with that at a college ranks, but an NFL passer is going to drop that in, and you're not ready for it. So that's the kind of things he has to learn. Now,
I hate to tell you this right now, but Nick Sirianni in his press conference just said that Marcus Mariota is the backup quarterback.
I expected him to commit to the veteran backup quarterback. I just wondered if they're thinking that maybe they're dissatisfied with that kind of a veteran. I know it's not going to be Tanner McKee. It's funny because this is going to be the classic sports talk conversation like this week. Like Tanner McKee's got to be the backup, and people don't realize that you just don't step into the NFL as a rookie from Stanford and become a backup and win games. And people expect you to win games if the starter's hurt. That's not going to happen.
I'll give the full context here. Nick Sirianni, when asked if rookie Tanner McKee has a chance to supplant Marcus Mariota as the Eagles' number 2 quarterback, Nick Sirianni says, "You're way too early on that. Marcus is our backup." So that's where we're at.
That's the knowledgeable football fan or looks at that and go, yeah, of course they can't overreact to a guy like Tanner McKee playing the second half against the Browns and anoint him and put him on a depth chart at 2.
Yeah. If Marcus Mariota's passion has left him, if that's gone, I do agree with you. There's going to be somebody else they're going to bring in. They're not going to rely on the rookie to be the backup.
No.
Yeah. Let me read between the lines in Sirianni's statement. Marcus Mariota is the backup today. That's today. He didn't say the season. He said today.
Let me ask you this: Would they reach out and try to make a trade for since he's not going to be the starter in Indianapolis, our old pal Gardner Minshew?
Oh, geez. Oh my goodness.
I possibly thinking about throwing them a draft pick to get Gardner Minshew.
I doubt that. I think Shane Steichen wants him there as his insurance policy because he knows that offense so well. Obviously, Minshew, when he was here last year, after he got to start, what did he say after the game? He goes, "I want to prove to people that I'm a starter in the National Football League." He had that decent game against the Dallas Cowboys, and he came out and said, "I want to prove to people I'm more than just a backup." Well, he's already had to concede defeat in Shane Steichen's offense in Indianapolis to a raw rookie in Anthony Richardson. So I think Steichen wants to keep him as that insurance policy because he can run Steichen's offense. Plain and simple.
Yeah, you're probably right. But maybe Gardner has realized it's not bad being a backup in the NFL. It's not bad. It's not a bad gig. At this stage of my life, I just have to accept it.
Hey, just ask Chase Daniel. That man's made a whole lot of money sitting on people's benches for how many years? He's 36 years old. What does his resume say? Habitual backup in the NFL. I'm rich.
You never get hit. You stay on the sideline. You put the headphones on. You consult with the offensive coordinator. It's a great life.
One of my favorite quotes ever. Chase Daniel saying to Drew Brees, "I'm here to take your job, bro." So entertaining. Mike, what's left? I mean, obviously we have one more preseason game to unfortunately watch, but we'll watch it. What anything else you want to see in this preseason, if anything?
I mean, are they going to play any starters in the third game? Does the quarterback get a snap?
Let me ask you this.
I think the throw he had to the fan at the end of the game tonight is the only throw we're going to see him have in the preseason.
I agree.
So they won't play him at all. I mean, listen, I guess that's what they do now. There's a school of thought that you have to get some kind of snap. Maybe you don't. I don't know. So maybe they won't play anybody this preseason. I know they're a good team, so it doesn't matter to me whether they play or not. I'm ready to start the season. We'll get a general idea if they're ready for the season. They should be ready for that first game. I don't think they're playing a team that is that great, so they should get off to a good start. And this season comes down to that killer stretch of 6, and we'll see if they can win 12, 13 games with this team.
Yeah, see, the only teams that are really playing starters are teams that have new quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you look at Houston, you look at Indianapolis, you look at Carolina. You may even see, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers play a couple of series in the Jets next game, because he's got a whole new collection of offensive linemen. He's got some of his favorite people that he brought in with Green Bay, but it's a whole new system. Got to get the timing down, so on and so forth. But outside of that, especially after watching 6 players go down, Jalen Hurts, you stay in the locker room. Last game, you stay in the locker room. I don't even want you on the sideline.
And that's probably the sound way to do it, D. I just think, there's also a school of thought, get a drive in there with your starters, get them just acclimated one drive. But you're probably right. They're probably not going to do that at all.
If I put my starters out there and the Jets are playing no more than the 3rd and 4th stringers, guys who are going to be looking for work, and they're going to be overzealous trying to make plays, I'm not putting my franchise people out there. This game is dangerous enough, and we see across the league already, whether it's in training camp sessions or in preseason games, players are dropping like flies again, and the last thing I want is my $230 million quarterback to have some guy, Joe Blow, who's going to be out of the league in another week, trying to make a play and get himself a highlight reel he can show to his grandkids one day.
Yeah. It's almost like playing pickup basketball at the Y. There's always a guy that plays with the high elbows. You don't want to play against.
On that note, Mike, I do want to ask you this last thing. This last thing for me. What is Mike Missanelli's stance on, because they're not playing in the preseason? The big reason is because the practices nowadays mean more than the games. So what does Mike Missanelli make of the day and age in the NFL where you can win a practice, Mike? You can win a day at practice. How do you feel about that?
I can win a day? Probably. What, you talking about a fan can win a day?
No.
Or a team winning a practice.
The Eagles won day 2 of the joint practice session with the Browns. They lost day 1.
Yeah, I think that's good. I do. If it was up to me, I wouldn't play preseason games. So I guess I don't care that much that the starters play. I would just like to go right into the season because of the fear of injury. I know it's necessary to play it, but I think the joint practices, if they're really cranking it up, are good. And I guess that's a substitute for not playing your starters in a game anymore. It's safer. It's more controlled environment. So I mean, listen, I'm a progressive guy, Mark. I like progress. Like if the league is moving towards one way, I try to understand it and go, okay, it's changed. It's just like people like these old school baseball people who go, I don't like it. I don't like the ghost run. I go, well, why don't you like it? Well, I don't know, but I just don't like it.
Mike, I'm with you.
It's just progress. We evolve as a species.
Yeah, I now consider myself a non-practicing baseball traditionalist. I used to be all traditional with baseball, and now I embrace everything that's different.
Yeah, I don't want the robot out. Why not? Well, I don't know. Everything changes.
I'm with you. Mike, always great catching up, man. We appreciate your insight into the game and who you're looking at and what we'll be looking at in the not-too-distant future once we get that season underway. I look forward to seeing you at Oceans in the upcoming football season.
I'm there right now. What? If I wasn't at Ocean, I wouldn't have any fun tonight. Well, here I am. I'll see you guys football season.
All right, man.
Great. See you, Mike. The great Mike Missanelli joining us right there. Our first guest of the evening. John McMullen will be joining us coming up in a little bit. He'll let us know the rest of what Nick Sirianni had to say in his post-game press conference, as well as some information from the locker room, and if there's any more injury news regarding the Eagles and where we stand there. We'll continue our reaction to preseason game number 2 with the Eagles and the Browns coming up in a minute here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel.
If you own a company and you're not producing a podcast, you're missing out. The public consumes messaging when they're ready. Join the professional podcast network of companies and let JAKIB Media Partners put you in the podcast arena. Come to our professional studio, or we'll come to your place of business and professionally produce your company podcast. Call JAKIB Media right now at 267-261-3428. 267-261-3428.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wild wood days.
Score and save in southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, Birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com. EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back on the Lehocky Postgame Show, brought to you by our friends at Ocean Casino. Go for the live show. Go for the win. Derek Gunn, Marc Farzetta, John McMullen will be joining us. Our thanks again to Mike Missanelli for jumping on with us. How about Ryan Fitzpatrick? You want Ryan Fitzpatrick? You want to take him out of, what is he doing, DirecTV commercials now?
Okay,
what is he doing?
How about Phillip Rivers? Since he was San Francisco's, alternative plan had they gotten to the Super Bowl, Phillip Rivers was coming out of retirement. Why not bring him up?
Phillip Rivers, definitely bring the family bus to Philadelphia. Absolutely,
all 9 kids. Bring all 9 kids with you.
I think he's got 10 now. I think they're expecting number 10 because I think it's one more and he has a complete offense.
What? 10?
Yeah. I think he's got 10 kids. I think he's expecting number 10.
Man,
you gotta have the retirement, baby. You gotta have the retirement, baby.
I love kids, but there's a limit. There's a limit on kids, man. I got 3. I got 4 grandkids. Yeah, there's a limitation. Yeah.
How many brothers you got? I know you got one brother. How many? One brother
and 2 sisters.
Okay. My mom, my lovely mother, is one of 12. I can say from personal experience that you get into double digits, man. Just good luck to you. Just good luck to you the rest of the way. Also, Phillip Rivers, I think he owes our friend Trey Thomas. I think he owes Trey Thomas like $100 for a Domino's game that they started out there in San Diego many years ago. So maybe if he comes to Philadelphia, they could settle that score finally. I'm sure Trey is going to hold him to it.
Yeah, Trey's painting gallery.
Exactly. They'll settle the score that way. Let's see. Ben Roethlisberger, he's recently retired.
Well, you really are reaching.
I'm just saying, Chase Daniel name was brought up.
Look, so I saw this one. I was cracking up. Griffin Renzi. Breaking news: Eagles signed Ron Jaworski, according to Adam Schefter. Man, these people are brutal, man.
Let's see here. Who else is out there?
Archie.
Wait.
You're going to do that? Go back to Wyatt Tittle. Get Wyatt Tittle back.
Where's Tyrod Taylor these days? Oh, he's with the Giants.
I believe he is backing up the Giants. Yes.
Let's see here. Looking around a little bit more. Let's get one more name out there. Case Keenum with the Bills. I'd rather. Oh, Andy Dalton. Is he still with the Cowboys?
No,
no, he's with the Saints. The Saints. What am I saying?
No, he's not with the Saints anymore. He's with Carolina now.
Good God.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's enough of that. Wow. Okay, I'm done. I can't go down this rabbit hole. I got to get out of this. All right. We talked about Nakobe Dean as a linebacker. We mentioned Christian Ellis. I got to say, that series that Christian Ellis had, where he had 2 tackles, shed blocks on both those tackles on the same series, then had the pass breakup. I mean, he looked like he was moving around well, but this guy's going to be a starting linebacker for this team. I really feel like, Zach Cunningham has to have a good game. I think he led the team in tackles tonight at a tackle for loss. He played a really good game. But I think Christian Ellis, I'll just put it like this. He has a really good chance to actually start next to Nakobe Dean as a linebacker on this team. And if he's not starting, I think he's going to get significant reps. He's really impressed me. The things people have been saying about him during practice have been glowing remarks. And then seeing him on the field tonight, it seemed like he got extended amount of playing time. He looks like he is ready to make plays at the NFL level.
What have I been telling you for weeks?
Watch Christian Ellis.
Did I not believe that Morrow was the penciled in starter at the will linebacking position? There's some teams that believe in a smaller backer, and it's worked for them. But for whatever reason, Kazir White, everybody was reviewing him early in the season. All of a sudden, he started to fade, and people got, they fell out of love with him. I just think that Morrow may be a little too light at 6'1", 215 for the will backer spot. You look at Christian Ellis at 6'3", 235, 240, and you look at the way he played tonight. He got up in the hole. He took on blockers, shed blockers. He blew up a screen play at one point. He had a great play on the coverage play over the middle that Mike was talking about. And I think he's hungry. And he doesn't just want to make this team; he wants to assert himself, and he's playing like it right now. Mm-hmm. But here's the kicker to all this. This was all. I was guaranteed that Ellis was going to supplant Morrow until they brought in Miles Jack and Zach Cunningham. Now, both of those guys are highly decorated, highly paid. They came in here in a bargain basement price. They're hungry. They want them. They're using these 1-year contracts, hopefully to parlay that into some bigger money. They're both still, like in their late 20s. I could see. I wouldn't be surprised now if somehow, some way, Zach Cunningham moves up this depth chart, or Miles Jack. If Nakobe Dean gets hurt, from what we've seen so far, it looks like Miles Jack would be in the middle of this defense. But I wouldn't be surprised now with Cunningham here, because he's a bigger body. If somehow, some way, he supplants both of the leapfrogs past both of these guys and becomes your starter at that will spot.
Kayvon Wallace, Zach Cunningham, both in on 7 tackles tonight. Zach McPherson was in on 6. By the way, they abused and abused. I felt like the Browns had a personal vendetta against McPherson in the first, first 2 possessions. Jeez. He had 6 tackles tonight. Christian Ellis had 5. He was in on 5. He had 3 solos. 2 tackles for loss for Christian Ellis. 1 tackle for loss for Zach Cunningham. One more thing I want to say about the linebacker position. Ben Van Sumeren, tomato, 5 tackles today. 3 of them were solo. And this is the guy I had my doubts on, man. Everyone was talking about the freak athlete and all that stuff, raw talent, blah, blah, blah. The guy played himself a good game, had a tackle on special teams, did a good job there, had a batted pass, got into the backfield to rush a pass as well. They actually blitzed him on a good play that ended up being, I think, a pass breakup by McMullen out there on down the sideline. But very aggressive, and I'm seeing that raw talent that everyone was talking about, and I'm seeing it actually develop into a little bit of talent. Probably a practice squad guy, not making the roster, but probably a practice squad guy. That's where I put him.
And not only that, but if you're somehow on the roster, more of a special teams type guy, based on the depth that they have at the position right now. The only way you even talk about him getting on the field, I believe, is if you're down to just him, and I believe if that was the case, they'd bring in another veteran sitting out there somewhere like they did last year with an Ndamukong Suh and a Linval Joseph. It might take a week or two to get him up to speed in terms of what they want him to do. That guy will be on the field, but I don't think in any way, shape, or form he gets on the football field for this team other than special teams play, if that.
No, I'm with you there. Let's head over to Lincoln Financial Field, talk to our man John McMullen, writer extraordinaire, and, of course, co-host of Birds 365, the great John McMullen joining us. John, what's going on, brother?
How are you guys? We got through it. It was a long time, but we got through it. Boy, man, they went, too many injuries. Number one, that's the serious part of it. But
let's start right there. Gunnar has given us a little bit of an update a moment ago. We have any more news on the 6 Eagles? Most notably, of course, talking about a Jomo in Cleveland tonight who had neck injuries.
Yeah, I hope they're both moving their extremities. So you hope they're very cautious nowadays, and they want to stabilize anybody who's even remotely near a head or a neck injury. So the hope is there that it's not as serious as it looks anytime when you see the cart. I think long term, the injury to Zach McPherson certainly looked the most difficult, and that looks like a long-term injury. Got to talk to Nolan Smith in the locker room, so he's fine with the shoulder injury. And then Josh Andrews left with an ankle injury, and I'm missing one. There were 6. I'm trying to think of them all. But yeah, Olamide is fine. He came back on the field, so that should be a short-term thing as well. But let's be honest. The Eagles don't care about losses, draws, wins in the preseason. All they care about is getting the week 1 healthy, and they got 6 guys hurt tonight. So that's the real loss. That's the biggest concern. Then the second biggest concern to me is, boy, man, Marcus Mariota is just not picking up this offense. And for those who used to crap upon Gardner Minshew's a better backup quarterback than Marcus Mariota. Now, obviously, you don't want Jalen Hurts. You want him to play every game. But if you need somebody to come in for a game or two, the Eagles were much better last year than they are this year. And then you're going to have the fan base, and they've already started. Well, Tanner McKee should be the backup. Nick Sirianni shot that down. He's not ready. Understand the context of preseason. He's playing against 3rd and 4th string players. He was very good. He's even better than the numbers look because there were about 4 drops on him. So he's performing very well, but he's not ready to be a backup in this league. And the Eagles know it. And it's about getting Marcus Mariota up to speed, and it doesn't look good right now.
John, correct me if I'm wrong in this regard, but based on the way the young players were flying around the field last week against Baltimore, I just felt Cleveland had much more energy coming out of the gate in this game than the Eagles did. I mean, they walked down the field, and luckily Nakobe Dean, after making a gaffe on the unnecessary roughness, comes back and strips the ball, saves the day somewhat. But I just thought Cleveland had more energy than his team for some reason tonight. Am I overstating that case?
No, I mean, that was a good first drive for Cleveland. Remember, they started their 3rd string quarterback. Forget about Deshaun Watson. They didn't play Josh Dobbs. They were down to number 3 and a rookie quarterback at that, and Dorian Thompson-Robinson. And the fact I heard you guys talking when I was in the green room, I don't think they were necessarily picking on Zach McPherson. It's just that Robinson, as a right-handed quarterback, likes to throw to the right side. I mean, he's just throwing. He doesn't have a lot of experience, but they were effective. And I think when you have guys that don't get to play that much, they're juiced up. And I think they were juiced up and they were pretty effective. And I thought that Eagles defense was on its heels, and it looked bad. And you're saying, oof. What's Nakobe doing? And then he makes the play, and that kind of masks he wasn't that good on that drive. And it was kind of like as he was going by, he got the football. And again, that's not Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb is not fumbling that football.
Yeah.
Bottom line. So I think people get too fired up about certain things. Like last week, the Eli Ricks pick six. Same type of thing against a fourth string quarterback telegraphing. You got to put the context into these things. But I heard you got Zach Cunningham on the other hand. He's going to be the other starting linebacker unless he completely falls apart the next 2 weeks. But he was great in the joint practices. He forced 2 turnovers on Deshaun Watson with tipped footballs. And that's why he got to start tonight. And I thought he was their best defensive player of that first group tonight. So he's playing very well.
I just think Morrow is a little bit too light in the behind to play that Will Backer spot at 215 pounds. There are a few teams in the NFL that love to play smaller, faster linebackers, and it works for them. But for some reason, I've been saying prior to them going out and getting 2 more linebackers that I thought, Christian Ellis was going to supplant Morrow as the starting Will Backer. He's 6'3", 235, 240 compared to 6'1", 215. Christian Ellis played his butt off tonight. He had a good game tonight. He blew up a screen pass. He had nice coverage over the middle on one play, made some tackles, showed up really well on film. But since they've added Miles Jack and Cunningham, as I was telling Mark earlier in this show, don't be surprised if Cunningham leapfrogs over them because of his experience level, and when he stays healthy, he's a pretty good player. I think, you know what I mean? I just think that because of his size and his accolades as an NFL player, that he's better suited for what Desai and Matt Patricia want to run with the games there.
Yeah, and he was, for those who don't know, he was a very good player in Houston who signed at one point a really big money deal. He's very long, and that's where he tips the ball. He understands coverage and where to be. Nick Sirianni talked about him afterwards when he used to play against him when he was in Indy. He said they'd have to throw around him because he's so long. He makes it really difficult for quarterbacks in that mid-range game. So the only question with Zach Cunningham, and I said when they signed Zach and Miles, I said I was more excited about Zach Cunningham because he was the better player, but you had to see if he had anything left, and it looks like he does.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to turn out. Now, Miles, on the other hand, he's going the opposite direction. He didn't get into the game until I think 3 minutes were left in the third quarter. So that's not a good sign. So I think one is working out, one is not working out. But D-Gun, you're right. Christian Ellis is going to be on this team.
Yeah.
Because he's a good special teams player. They need good special teams players now even more than ever because they lost Sean Bradley, and now they might have lost Zach McPherson, who might be their best coverage player. So they need good special teams players. Christian Ellis isn't going anywhere. But as far as being the starter, I think Zach Cunningham's going to be the starting linebacker.
How about the safety position? First off, just 2 things on that. One, why did any reason, any explanation given as to why Kayvon Wallace came back into the game there in the fourth quarter?
No, we didn't ask Nick that. I didn't even think of it. I was surprised to see him out there. Okay. So that's one I should have asked.
Oh, come on, John. No, I'm just curious. Yeah.
They played, Nick did say it was obviously a long game, but there was a lot of plays as well. So maybe it was just a rep thing. Remember, Reed Blankenship didn't play. So it was essentially Terrell Edmonds, Kayvon Wallace, Justin Evans, Sidney Brown. Somebody's got to play till the game is finished. So that kind of factors into it as well.
Not a flashy game tonight. Real quick, just on that, on Sidney Brown, not a flashy game for him tonight. Did anything jump out to you about Sidney Brown's performance?
No, he keeps running behind even Justin Evans. And I'm surprised by that because, if you added up the first team reps in training camp and in the preseason games, Reed Blankenship has taken every first team rep except when they defer to him in games, which he's now a deference player. So you put him aside. He's a starter. Then everybody is sort of rotated next to him. Of that group, Terrell Edmonds has gotten the most first-team reps, followed by Kayvon Wallace, followed by Justin Evans, followed by Sidney Brown. I'm surprised they're being so slow with it. My buddy Tim McManus probably gave, he gave me a thought which might explain it in that this whole philosophy is built on, and Nick talks about it all the time, limiting explosive plays. If you're not in the right spot, doesn't matter how athletic you are, if you're going to give up big plays, they're not going to put you on the field. So I think with Sidney, it's about he's got to slow down a little bit and he's got to understand the defense a little bit. And when that comes, he'll be on the field. But until that comes, the last thing they want to do is him running the wrong way and somebody gets behind him for a 60-yard touchdown. That's exactly what they're trying to prevent.
John, what are we to make of Edmonds' status on this team? You don't hear his name called much. And obviously he's a 6-year vet, so he has that experience. But should we hear more from him considering?
Well, that's the kind of player he is. I would say he's a lock, and for this reason, D Gun, he's not a lock as a starter, but he's going to be the linebacker in the big nickel. So Sean Desai likes to play that 3 safety look. How much we'll have to see. But when he does, Terrell Edmonds plays that sort of a glorified linebacker position. So even if he's not the starter, even if he's beaten out by Kayvon Wallace or Sidney Brown, he's going to be the guy that comes in the big nickel. So it's going to be one of two things for Terrell Edmonds. He's going to start at safety, and when he moves in to the big nickel as the linebacker, they're going to rotate in either Wallace or Justin Evans or Sidney Brown. Or, if it's Kayvon starting or Sidney Brown, he's just going to come in as that glorified linebacker. So he's a lock, but it's a matter of what his role ends up being. And that's sort of the type of player he was in Pittsburgh. He's not splashy. He's not going to be C.J. Gardner-Johnson, but he's consistent and he's not going to make a lot of mistakes.
Okay.
John, what the hell happened on that safety play?
Josh Sills happened. Josh Sills.
Yeah.
You got to you got to block the back end. You got to block the backside. And he just completely whiffed, and I forget who the player on Cleveland was, but ran it down from the backside, and they couldn't get out. And that goes back to play before Marcus Mariota, bad pass, is why the reason you're backed up.
Yeah.
But when you whip like that, and again, but at the end of the day, it's preseason, right? Josh Sills is not going to be out there.
No.
That's normally going to be Cam Jurgens. He was playing right guard, and hopefully you don't have that type of situation. But yeah, he completely whiffed. Completely whiffed.
Hey, John, we got to see a little bit of Tyree Jackson. I've been waiting 2 years to see this guy. Caught a nice pass over the middle. Obviously, health has been his downfall. They have Dan Arnold in here with Calcaterra. Do you think there's any way Tyree could make this roster? I mean, he's got that big body, but just
I know he's such a tease because he's so athletically gifted.
I like that tease. I like that.
Yeah, and you saw him get in the open field, and he's just, he's so big, he's so athletic, and he used to play quarterback, for those who don't know, in college in Buffalo, and he was a really good quarterback. So the thought process was, maybe turn him into a Logan Thomas, who was a great quarterback in college, turned into a really good tight end. But as you mentioned, D-Gun, he just injuries. It's ironic. He had that stress fracture in his back, making a phenomenal catch at training camp. And then he tore his ACL. I don't think he's going to make the team. He might be on the practice squad again. I'm a little disappointed in Dan Arnold. I thought that's a guy who could help this team.
Yes.
But he has not flashed. He was great in the spring, but since we got to training camp, he hasn't really flashed much. And Calcaterra is clearly ahead, so it's not Bunn, but I think it's going to be chalk at tight end. It's going to be Goddard, it's going to be Jack Stoll, and it's going to be Grant Calcaterra.
John, when they brought Arnold in, and I had put it out there, I said I thought he could emerge as the number 2 tight end. He's an accomplished blocker, but if you look at his career, he doesn't have a great volume of catches, but he does have good hands. And I thought because of his NFL experience, 7 years in the league, you look at the other two. One's a better blocker than catcher. The other one's a better catcher than blocker. Here's a guy who can do both well, even though his volume of catches is not that great. But you're exactly right. You really haven't seen much from him.
No.
And it's like.
And he's getting reps, and he's getting reps with the third team, and he hasn't moved past that. And that's a bad sign at this stage. And, he's always been a guy who he had that little run when Jacksonville traded for him. And he had a couple big games. And, I talked to our buddy Colin Thompson about him, who's, an NFL tight end. And now he's with Minnesota, Colin. And he said, he's a great receiver, but he's not the best blocker in the world. So he's more of a flex guy. But I thought the Eagles, as Super Bowl contender, I thought that could help them. He could go win a game for you with a big catch, maybe week 13, week 14 versus Grant Calcaterra. Like if you're a 5, 6, 7 win team, you keep the young guy. You keep the young guy with upside. But I thought Dan Arnold could be that veteran player. And we saw it in 2017 with the Garrett Blunts and the J.J.'s and the Chris Long. Somebody like that on this team, but it just hasn't manifested itself in training camp.
John, last one for me. I know we got a week to break this down. Who starts preseason game number 3? Is it as easy as Tanner McKee, or does Marcus Mariota get more reps?
Well, I think Marcus is going to start because he needs a lot of reps with this offense. I was questioning whether Marcus would start this game because Kevin Stefanski let the Cleveland writers in on it pretty early that Dorian Thompson-Robinson was going to start. And I said, well, maybe Nick sees that and says, why am I even going to bother with the backup? But now I think we saw why he bothered with the backup, because the backup needs to learn this offense a little bit better, to say the least. And if anything, he regressed today to the point people are talking about a rookie 6th-round pick beating him out. Now, the Eagles aren't. I want to make that very clear. The Eagles do not think there's a backup quarterback controversy. But any fan watching this game is going to think Tanner McKee's better than Marcus Mariota, and it's going to be tough to tell them otherwise. That's how poorly Marcus Mariota performed. He was just not good. There's no way to frame it.
John, that last game is going to be a whole bunch of no names playing in the game. Would you even put Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith on the field if Nolan is healthy?
No.
Would you even come close to putting him on the field in a situation like that?
No, especially now that Nolan banged up the shoulder. certain guys have to play. But remember, they changed the rules so you can carry 90 the entire time. It's one of the untoward aspects of the NFL because you played these guys and you know they're not going to be here after August 29th just to get through and make sure your key guys are healthy. Now, certain guys have to play on the back end. And there's still some people, some bubble players, and you'll see some of it. But, yeah, the deference players, we're not going to see Jalen Hurts. We're not going to see anybody. Lane Johnson, Jason Kelsey, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And now, as you mentioned, like here's what I don't understand. Like today, Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis started and they played, I don't know, the first two series, maybe the first series, maybe that was it.
Yeah.
What's getting accomplished by that other than them potentially rolling an ankle? Or in the case it happened with Nolan, he hurt his shoulder. What's getting accomplished? If they're only going to play a series, just sit them out.
Yeah. Yep.
No, I'm with you. I'm not playing either of them. I'm not playing either of them when it comes to preseason game number 3. John, thank you so much for joining us from Lincoln Financial Field. Much obliged. Catch you at Birds 365 tomorrow, you and Jody.
Yeah, back at it early, Mark. You know that. You're an early riser.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I am. The great John McMullen joining us right there from Lincoln Financial Field. John, thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it, John.
Appreciate it. All right, Gunner, when we come back, there were 2 what the hell moments. Well, when it came to this Eagle, I'm not even going to mention the safety. We already talked about the safety, but there are 2 other moments. I guess technically it's 3, but we'll get to both those when we come back and put a bow on this postgame show. We'll be back with the JAKIB Media postgame show brought to you by Pond Lehocky coming up in a few.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction. Go with trust.
Go Birds!
And go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pond Lehocky, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
EAGLES. Eagles.
Welcome back on the Lehocky Postgame Show, brought to you by the great people at Ocean Casino. Go for the live show. Go for the win. Ocean Casino. Gunner, that scramble by Mond. Let me see if I have this correct. Okay. Janarius Robinson, Teron Jackson, Moro Ajomo, who, of course, got hurt on the play, unfortunately, but he's got movement in his extremities, and Ben Von Sumeren, all whiffed. Robinson had a chance to get a strip at the 1 yard line, missed it, and then he ran through 3 or 4 other Philadelphia Eagles on that play before finally being brought down after he obtained the first down. That was fun to watch.
That was a play where those young men do not want to see the film tomorrow and have the coaches calling them out. It was like watching a segment out of the Three Stooges. Mon is back there, whoop, 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 and they couldn't get him. I'm thinking, okay, they got no, they got him. No, they don't have him now. And I'm thinking that's not going to go over well when it comes to film session. Somebody's going to get chewed out, and but again, it falls in the category of maintaining your lane discipline. And bringing the ball carrier to the ground, and unfortunately it happened. Thank goodness it was a meaningless game that didn't lead to anything. But you don't want to be on the wrong end of that film when stuff like that happens.
Okay, I just want to bring the viewers up to speed here in our chat. This is how great my day has been so far. I got to listen to Derek Gunn do a Lucky Charms leprechaun impression, and I just got to hear him do a Curly from Three Stooges impression. This is what, other than it being an 18-18 tie, this has been the best day of my life.
How long have you known me now?
I know you 15 years, 16 years, 15 years about.
Years, and you really don't know me.
I really don't. How about that? And then one more. What the hell? It was one of the guys we talked about today that we really wanted to see tonight. He played left tackle. He played right guard tonight. 3rd round pick Tyler Steen, back-to-back false start penalties. All right. They were interviewing Dallas Goedert, I believe, at the time that these penalties happened. The first one, they got it live. The second one, they did not, because I think they were interviewing Dallas Goedert. But I went, was that the same start? And I checked the play-by-play on ESPN, and I went, that was the same series. It was the same number. It was the same guy.
Back-to-back plays.
And look, I understand right guard is not in his natural habitat yet, so he might be a little distracted, might be pressing a little bit, but not a good sign there by the rookie right guard, left tackle, backup offensive lineman, whatever you want to call Tyler Steen.
But it's okay. Make those mistakes. There's perennial Pro Bowlers, future Hall of Famers that get false starts. It happens. You're jacked up about trying to get the advantage over the man across from you, and sometimes you're so jacked up you forget to count, and all of a sudden you move. And it happens. There were games last year, as good as the Eagles were, where they would have games where they'd have 3, 4, 5 false starts. It's going to happen. Especially if you're playing in a loud environment. Especially if you're on the road. When you really have to go on the silent counts. It's bound to happen. It's a part of being an offensive lineman, whether it's the college ranks or the National Football League. Minimize those mistakes. That's what you find out if a kid's truly learning. You minimize those things.
Sure. One more honorable mention. Second quarter, 3rd and 3. Keely Ringo. We mentioned it with Mike Missanelli earlier in the show, but he was staring down Thompson Robinson. He was staring him down, Gunner. And he was down the sideline, had great coverage, and was still staring at the quarterback as the ball was sailing over his head. He was there to make an interception, and he was there to make a play. He did not make a play. He didn't do either of those things. It was a reception, and he looked terrible on that particular play.
He actually stopped. He was looking back, and he stopped, and the receiver kept going, and the ball dropped right in his breadbasket. And again, I don't know if anybody's talked to him. And I like to see, I'm going to start checking, all the writers I know and see if anybody talked to him about that particular play. I wonder if he lost sight of the quarterback in the lights, or if he lost sight of the ball flight in the lights. Now, the receiver didn't. He made the catch. But you know what, Mark? a lot of times, and you know this, even when you stand on a field, you can stand in one spot and be blinded. You can move a foot or two another way and have perfect vision, under bright lights. And so I don't know. I'm not sitting here making excuses for the kid, but I'm curious to hear what happened, because we're sitting there going, what in the world was that? He had He had technique. He had perfect technique, perfect coverage on him. He was right there with him. And then all of a sudden he stops and receiver slides about 1.5 yards past him. Boom. Turns out to be a big play for Cleveland.
I'm looking at social media. I'm not seeing anybody say anything about what Ringo had to say afterwards, but I'm sure we'll find out by tomorrow, because you and I are back in the saddle. I'm back in the saddle for Rob Ellis, who's off for the rest of the week. What impression will I get tomorrow? I can't wait. But I'll be in the seat with you again for Sports Take, so I look forward to that. But, man, Gunner.
Delicious.
Talking to you for 4.5 hours in the day. Oh, man, this has been fantastic. It's a dream come true, my friend.
You say facetiously.
His name is Derek Gunn. You can check us out tomorrow. We'll be both doing Sports Take as I get into it from Rob Ellis. Look forward to doing that, talking more about this game and some other things around the Philadelphia sports scene. So I look forward to that. Who's our guest? We have Tim McManus. Who is it?
Tim McManus is joining us at 12:30 tomorrow to recap last night's game and to look ahead in terms of what's to come for that last preseason game. We haven't had Tim on in a while. So he said, D-Gun, I think I can do it at 12:30. So as of right now, as we sit here at 12:31 a.m. Friday morning, Tim McManus will join us in exactly, 12 hours.
Wow, how about that? And I'll be back on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel in exactly 5.5 hours to do the Farzy show at 6 a.m. So I look forward to doing that with all you fine people. And then I'll
delicious.
and I'll have a nice bowl of Cheerios. A nice bowl of Lucky Charms, and I'll do my show in the morning. Tony Shields produced the program. My thanks to Mike Missanelli, who joined us, John McMullen, who joined us, Derek Gunn. Always a pleasure, my friend. I'll see you at noon tomorrow for Sports Take. Everyone, have a wonderful rest of your evening. Until then, only an 18-18 game, but thank God it was over. And until then, go Birds. See you guys tomorrow.
EAGLES, Eagle.